Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is Ambassador Jamieson Greer. He is the United States Trade Representative, a member of Donald Trump's cabinet. Thank you very much for being our guest today.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Greer, you just announced proposals for fresh tariffs between 10 and 12.5% on some 60 countries, including major trading partners of the United States, the European Union, China, Japan, South Korea. Is this a response to the Supreme Court striking down the initial tariffs decided by the Trump administration?
When you think about the tariffs that we had in place last year, these tariffs were in place due to enormous trade deficit, the enormous trade deficit we have with the world, and some were particularly severe for certain jurisdictions, China, the European Union, Japan, et cetera. Driving all of these deficits, we believe, among other things, are unfair trading practices. One of these is a tolerance for the import and export of goods made with forced labor. So this is the action where we proposed tariffs last night. After doing an investigation, we found that many countries either did not have laws to prevent trade in goods made with forced labor, or if they did have the laws, they weren't effectively enforcing them. This is an unfair trading practice we think distorts global trade, and we want to take care of it.
The European Union reacted. The Commission said those were unjustified. Does this imperil the EU-US trade deal that was reached last year? Because those tariffs would come on top of the ones decided in the deal last year, correct?
Well, to be clear, the ones in the deal last year were based on a previous legal authority that, as you mentioned, the Supreme Court has struck down. So those tariffs are not in play anymore. We see a lot of room for continued compliance with the trade agreement, even with what we just proposed last night. I had a conversation with the European Trade Commissioner, Maroš Šefčovič, before we sent this out, and he gave me his views. I gave him mine. Both sides are committed to compliance with the trade agreement. We know that the European Union and Parliament are moving forward with legislation. There are a lot of other things that need to be dealt with as well that were agreed to at Turnberry, but we think there's a lot of room for compliance on both sides.
So the 15% would remain?
We understand that this is the deal, and a deal's a deal, and if the European Union will comply with their part, we expect to comply with ours while also trying to get at all of these trade practices.
Right. You mentioned the European Parliament, the Trade Committee of the European Parliament, a few days ago, before those new announcements, voted in favor of the deal. The full Parliament is expected to vote on June 16th. Do you think, given your announcements, this will still be endorsed by the European Parliament? And what if it's not?
So I think it will be. This investigation has been going on for some months. It's not a surprise and it's not a secret. We had consultations with the European Union on this matter with the Commission. We've also had engagement with the European Parliament. It went out of the committee with an overwhelming vote. We expect it to get through the Parliament as well. I must say, we have things in that legislation that we take issue with. The Parliament put an end date on the concessions, which reduces the value of the agreement for the United States. We have a number of non-tariff barriers related to the deforestation regulation or carbon border adjustment mechanism, where flexibilities that were promised have not been realized yet. So there is still a long way to go for the European Union to comply with their deal. We're happy with the progress that's been made, but we do expect more to take place.
And if you're not listened to, you could pull out of the deal.
Well, on both sides, right? Both sides. If we want a deal, we have to comply with the deal. We know that. A deal is a deal. The European Union is in the process of complying. The United States has been in compliance since last September. And so we're eager to see the Union also comply with the deal in every point.
You've also proposed tariffs on Brazil, 25%. Why are you doing this, given that there seemed to be an agreement between both presidents on this issue?
So we initiate, in the United States, we have trade enforcement actions, and we have a law that allows my office, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, to investigate unfair trading practices with respect to Brazil. This covered, deforestation, illegal deforestation in the Amazon that has led to vast overcapacity in agricultural products, et cetera. Our farmers and our foresters, they don't have to, they have to follow rules. They have to comply with rules, and they can't compete in a market like that. Brazil has taken actions in digital trade that are unfair and that are anti-competitive. They have a variety of issues related to ethanol. We used to have very balanced trade in ethanol with Brazil because of a mutual agreement to fairly liberalize trade. They went back on that. So there are a variety of these trading practices. We have had good meetings with President Lula and President Trump. In those meetings, we've said, let's talk and see if we can come to agreement. Those discussions continue. The 25% is a proposal at this point in response to these trading practices. If we can find resolution, then that will be helpful.
Aren't you concerned that those new proposed tariffs in the midst of the crisis that we're seeing because of the war with Iran are not going to create even more uncertainty? The markets are jittery because of the oil issues and so on. Isn't this adding fuel to the fire?
Our sense is no. President Trump, during his campaign, he campaigned on having tariffs. Over the past year and a half, we've had tariffs. Even in his first term, he had tariffs, and when President Biden came in, he kept tariffs in place. So tariffs as an economic tool have been used by the United States significantly for the past 8 years, and this is more of that. We're expanding it. We're trying to do it in a way that's nuanced, in a transparent way. We're receiving a lot of commentary. We're having hearings to hear from the business community and stakeholders on what makes the most sense. We don't have tariffs on oil and gas. We don't have tariffs on fertilizer. So some of those things that where there may be a supply chain chokehold in the Strait of Hormuz or elsewhere, they're not really affected by tariff actions one way or the other.
You've also been in talks with Mexico and Canada to renew the North American Free Trade Agreement. I understand you are indeed already working with Mexico. However, with Canada, it's been much more difficult. The trade minister just visited you in Washington. He said, we need to sit down and talk formally. Will this happen? Have you come to an agreement to formally begin discussions with Canada, or is it not on the agenda right now?
We are not engaging in formal negotiating rounds with Canada right now. For example, we have Canada who has retaliated against the United States as we pursue our trade policies, which again are designed at eliminating unfair trading practices, seeking reciprocity, getting rid of our deficit. I have 2 countries on the planet who have retaliated against the U.S., China and Canada. That makes it difficult, politically difficult.
So you're not talking to them because of
that?
that?
Well, we're talking to them, right? I met with the trade minister. I have a good relationship with the trade minister. And we've talked about issues that are important to the United States, issues that are important to Canada. But the level of formality that we have right now with Mexico, of negotiating rounds, of exchanging text, we're not doing that with Canada. We're doing what's right with Canada right now for the United States, which is discussing areas of concern. We have a lot of energy trade with Canada that's very helpful and mutually beneficial, and that hasn't been affected by any of our trade disputes. So we're meeting Canada where they are, they're meeting us where we are, and we're trying to move forward.
This North American Free Trade Agreement is up for renewal in July. If this doesn't happen, which seems likely, are you considering separate trade deals, one with Mexico and one with Canada, and not a continental agreement?
So for most of America's history, we didn't have a tripartite trade agreement.
I know.
This is something that's new in the 90s in an experimental way almost. So our view is, with Canada, it's a different type of economy. They have a different labor profile. We import and export different things generally. Mexico's different. We have different issues with them. So we do expect to have different protocols or agreements to supplement the USMCA and to fix issues that we think were problematic. There are some load-bearing pillars in USMCA that matter and that are important, but we do expect to have separate types of protocols or agreements or something with each country to get at those specific issues.
But you still want this USMCA, how it's called, to happen, right?
To be clear, what happens on July 1st? If each party has to say if they're going to renew USMCA for another 16 years. This is a little bit in the weeds, but that's what it is. We are not in a position, I'm not in a position to rubber stamp that agreement and say there's no problem with this. So I don't think we're going to renew it outright, but we'll engage in these separate negotiations.
You went to China with President Trump. Clearly, as you said, China retaliated, and China is threatening also to impose measures on those who divest from China, or if they touch the supply chain. Many commentators have said Donald Trump came back empty-handed from China on this issue.
Well, that's false. On the specific issue.
Right.
So first of all, we came back. We have an agreement on agricultural purchases from the United States, Boeing's, a variety of other things. On this specific issue that you've talked about, we are very concerned about China's regulations purporting to limit other countries' ability to reindustrialize, diversify their supply chains. That is completely uncalled for.
Are they listening to your concerns?
Well, we've told them about it, right? Are they listening? They're listening, but we have strong concerns about this. And our sense is this can't go unanswered. Our sense is that we in the United States, we're going to continue to do what we think we need to do to reindustrialize. It's not even China-centric. For us, it's a domestic issue. We believe, poor trade policies for a long time that allowed China to concentrate production, that allowed other countries to take our manufacturing. And we're trying to fix that now. And we're not going to let any country stand in the way of that.
As a conclusion, are your policies working? Many economists are questioning whether actually it's working to reduce the trade deficit, increase wages, and so on, that it's actually counterproductive.
It's working, and the data show this. Our trade deficit in goods has been going down every month, year on year. If you look at the 12 months since April, when we started our trade policy, versus the previous 12 months, it's a 25% reduction in the trade deficit in goods. With China, it's even more extensive, a 30% reduction in the trade deficit in goods with China. We have a net positive manufacturing jobs in the first quarter of 2026, and we're exporting over $300 billion a month. It's the most America has ever exported in the history of our country. So is it working? The numbers say that it is.
Ambassador Jamieson Greer, thank you very much for being our guest, and thank you all for watching this interview here on France 24.